Fueled by Donut Country and McDonald's on 1019, 100.5, 1450, WGNSSports.com, and BigGTV.
Coach's Show is brought to you in part by First National Bank of Middle Tennessee. If you're looking for a hometown feel with your bank, turn to First National Bank of Middle Tennessee, offering full-service banking and mortgage services. Time to talk Riverdale football this morning. Coach Will Kriesky and the Warriors kick us off every Saturday morning here on the Coach's Show, a distinction that goes back to the early 90s. So just so folks know, I get that question about once a year from somebody.
Riverdale goes first. It's so I can avoid Kevin Kriesky.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. Yeah, y'all do it right.
Well, that is why it was done in the 90s, too, by the way. Different coaches.
So I don't have to see Kevin Kriesky every Saturday morning. Unfortunately, I have to see the Blackman coach no matter what. So.
Well, that's true. And Thanksgivings and all that stuff. Coach, Battle of the Borough Week, is it one of the most stressful, or is it?
Nah, I mean, it's Battle of the Borough. You don't have to say anything to the kids.
Right.
I mean, the way we prepared, there's nothing that I can be upset with at the preparation of the kids, what we did at practice last week, what we did at walkthroughs on Thursday. Just how they prepared, I was proud of them. They prepared like an elite football team. You know, what I'm tired of hearing is, the next day after we play Oakland, y'all were so close. Y'all did a good job. No, that's not the standard at Riverdale. Good job and losing, it doesn't go hand in hand at Riverdale. That's not the standard. The standard is to win every time you step on the field. And we got to get over the hump. Last 3 games, we've led in the second half with Oakland, and we haven't finished. And I got to do a better job as a head coach to make sure those kids are finishing those games, those elite games. And, we lived up to the standard for 3.5 quarters, and we just got to live that standard for 4 quarters for 48 minutes against elite football teams.
Well, as we talk about some of what happened during that game, to me, it starts with the effort of your quarterback, Gavin Hampton. Want to make him the SRM solid performer. 24 of 31, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, added a touchdown run as well. We said during the broadcast that, that was something to see.
He did. Gavin played really well. He's gotten better each and every week, and that's what Coach Barnes statistically does. Offensively, we get better each and every week, and Gavin played really well. The O-line, I thought they played extremely well. Oakland's defense is legit now. They're good. Best defense we've seen all year, and they fly around. And I was really proud of our skilled kids finding a window, get open, and catching the ball clean. They did a great job, and I was really proud of Jacob Baum running behind his pads. And the thing you got to do against Oakland is sustain drives. You can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, or it gets ugly really fast. And our offense was able to sustain drives and eat up minutes of the clock. And I was proud of how they did. And defense played well at times. And, the frustrating part is, we'd had Dante, bottled up, and he bust out and get a 30, 40-yard gain. Or, we have Cam Morton bottled up, and he bust out. Their explosive plays happened, either on cutback or, perfect coverage and the quarterback sneaks out the backfield. And, that's just a test to Coach Kriesky and his offense and with the skill kids he has. And, it stinks for us to see Dante have that success, but I couldn't be more proud of a kid. I'm not proud of it that he's doing it at Oakland, you know what I mean? But Dante texted me yesterday. We got a relationship. Kids leave me, I still have relationships with them. They're still I don't get mad. It's part of the business now. And if we're truly in it for relationships and taking care of kids, Dante's had some crisis since he left me. He still reaches out. That's just who we are at Riverdale, man. We're a relationship. That's how we found, our culture is a relationship. But, Dante played really well, and he did really, it's not surprising to me because I saw that all last year out of him.
Yeah. Gavin Hampton, our SRM solid performer, SRM Concrete, locally grown, nationally known. You mentioned explosive plays, and I guess none more explosive than the opening kickoff for them. But for your guys to have the poise to come right back, sometimes that can be a shell shocker. And when you're in a big emotional game like that, but your guys didn't really flinch.
No, I was really proud of that. I was not proud because that was not our kickoff. That's not
right.
That's not our standard on our special team. That's not what That's not the standard. It's not Riverdale standard, especially special teams play. But I was proud that the kids didn't get down. The kids didn't start yelling at each other. They said, all right, we got it. Let's go. We got the ball and took it down and scored and matched it. And that's what you have to do in those type of games. You can't. They're gonna make plays. They're gonna score touchdowns. They are talented, but you got to live and play the next play. And that's what we preach to the kid. They're gonna hit you in the mouth. How will you respond? Will you hit them back in the mouth? And I felt like at times we did that, and our kids responded really well at times.
Time of possession is not a stat that we're able to keep with just everything else going on, but you just by eyeballing the game and being there, it seemed like you had the ball much more than they did, and able to sustain those drives. And that's what you were talking about just a second ago. You can't go 3 and out against them.
No, that's the key. You got to sustain drives. And I thought there was a few times that we have not had success when we get behind the chains, and we were able to have success, 3rd and long, 2nd and long, to be able to make plays and move the chains. And, Oakland would get us to 3rd down, and we would convert on 3rd down. And that's huge to move the chains. And I can't brag enough on our line. They did a good job with it. We struggled a little bit against Rockville blocking, and maybe our focus wasn't where it needed to be that game, but I felt like the O-line, the focus was there, the drive was there, the determination was there to have that success up front.
Gavin's, he had guys all over the field just making plays. Corbin Reynolds, 6 catches, 78 yards. Luke Tritch, 5 for 59 and a touchdown. Corbin had a touchdown as well. He's got it seems like he's in sync with all of his receivers. I mean, they know how to complement each other very well.
Yeah, they're getting better. Riley Talley, you don't see, he's not always in the, stat line like high numbers, but he is very critical to what we do, and he makes really good catches in critical moments. And also, he's a heck of a blocker on the edge. He does a great job, and he plays his role, and he gives 110% with his role, and that's what you got to have. You got to have guys doing that, and I'm really proud of how they've grown up each and every week.
If there was something that you hear, and I think I don't know if you're watching the same team, but that Riverdale's just going to pass the ball. Well, look at Vaughn. What kind of night did he have?
He had a great night, exactly. And Jacob does a good job. What helps is Jacob does a great job catching out of the backfield also.
Yes.
Does a really good job with that. And so, you have to know where he's at. And, is he split out at receiver? Is he in the backfield? Coach Barnes does very creative ways to get him the football. I mean, when you run like he runs, you got to give him the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Gavin was able to check down to him a couple of times when, and you were able to convert some 3rd downs just on that kind of play.
Yes, and he's gotten better, and unfortunately he got one of those unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, and I'm not defending my kid. It was questionable. It was an emotional game, and a little extra. Like I told you earlier, Coach Kriesky does a great job stealing extra yards, and he got us. He got us.
Well, it was one of those games, and we see in games like that. I mean, the officials know too.
Yeah.
That it's that kind of a game. So, do you feel like they maybe call games a little closer, or
the issue was it's on TV? And when it's on TV, things are a lot different. When it's on TV,
because they've got a lot of other eyes on it too.
Yes, you got to make sure they don't have streamers on. You got to make sure the knees are covered up. Every little thing has to be taken care of because of TV game. They're always been evaluated. But the crew we had was an awesome crew. It was an all-star crew.
Yeah.
They did a good job managing the game, and you're always going to disagree with some calls that don't go your way. I mean, that's just the nature of us. But I thought overall it was a good, clean call game.
Well, it's amazing to me that we're already here to November, and the Thanksgiving turkeys being purchased here in a couple of weeks, and it's playoff football time. This year, the regular season, just if you had a couple of sentences to describe that for your Riverdale Warriors, what would you say?
Man, just the toughness of our kids. The resiliency, things haven't gone our way this year. We lost 5 turnovers against Knox Catholic, come back to work. Lost on the last drive against Blackman, come back to work, won 6 straight. And they're resilient. They believe, they live the standard, they trust the standard, and they keep coming to work. And that's what I told them, a Thursday after the game. Like, guys, you just went toe-to-toe with the number 1 team in 6A. How are you going to respond? Are you going to let it affect us next week? I said, because nothing's guaranteed after next Friday. Nothing. You know, and if you live the standard and believe the standard and trust the standard, things will go good next week. But if you don't, you know, we'll be one and done in the playoffs.
Well, the playoff picture is a lot different this year. You know, the first round, maybe not so much so, because these are teams, you know, like Lebanon and Cookeville and Green Hill and such, and Gallatin and all that we have been matched up with in the first round. But the second round, third round, and I know you're not looking down that far, but the pods and how they're put together, just any initial thoughts. I haven't talked to anybody about it because nobody wants to talk about playoffs until playoffs are here. But any thoughts on? I mean, it's definitely going to create some travel. Come around 2, 3, 4.
Being the number one in your region is huge now.
It really is.
It's huge ordeal, and that's why, you know, Coach Kriesky knew it was a big game, and why he was rooting for Blackman last night or Thursday night. You know what I mean? So, you know, he was texting my brother, pull it off, you know, and, you know, and because he knew our game was going to be a battle, you know what I mean? And so it was, it's huge. You want the number one seed is what I mean, obviously what you go for each and every year, but it's critical now.
Yeah, that is one huge thing, and I don't think if you haven't looked past or taken a look at a bracket, you need to take a look at that. But it also, honestly, makes some teams who maybe have had an easier road in the playoffs really have to earn it if they want to get to the big dance.
Yeah, you know, I don't think some of those East Tennessee teams voted for this.
Exactly. I wouldn't if I were them, would you?
You know, so I don't think they voted for it. I think it was more of our region.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our region made voices, and, you know, I mean, last year, you know, last few years it's been Riverdale, Blackman second round, you know, and then Oakland third. So, you know, it's good to play different teams. Get your kids on a bus. Let's go travel. You know, if you make it that far, that's what it's about. That's the time of year, and, you know, unfortunately, it costs a lot of money, but you know, it's a good experience for these kids.
Lebanon Blue Devils will be your next opponent. It's on the road there. We're going to head to Lebanon to broadcast that game next Friday night from Tommy Bryan Press Box. And Lebanon has always been just one of those places that I don't care what sport it is hard to go there and win a game.
It's very hard. You know, unfortunately, you know, in my tenure, I haven't had a lot of success at Lebanon. I've taken 2 teams down there and come back with 2 losses. You know, and I'm going to preach to the kids this week. You can't look into you can't look forward. All you're looking to is next Friday, and you got to pay attention. You know, Coach Chuck Gentry is a phenomenal coach. You know, he does a great job. Those kids are well coached, disciplined. You know, they may not be as athletic as a Rutherford County team, but they play almost perfect. You know, they're going to do their assignment every single snap of the ball. They're going to be in the right spot every snap. Then they're not going to have dumb penalties, and they're not going to have any penalties. They're a very disciplined football team. They're
also coming in. And to me, I think this makes them more dangerous. I've heard people say, well, they've lost 3 out of their last 4 or whatever, and I don't care. They're number 2, and they're hosting, and it's at Lebanon. And, you know, when you turn the page and turn the script after the regular season to the playoffs, you're going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be fired up. Coach Gentry does a good job, you know, playing the role of, you know, being the underdog, and he's going to do a good job getting those guys motivated, and they'll be ready to go when it comes 7 o'clock next Friday.
Well, definitely as the Riverdale postseason goes along, it's going to be having to get some things done on the road here, but your guys are ready to go, and you'll get the buses fueled up and figure that out.
Yeah, our coaches and everybody get back to work, and kids get back to work, and let's go. It's playoff. It's November.
That's right. Will, thanks for coming in this morning. Appreciate it. Will Kriesky, the head coach of the Riverdale Warriors, joining us here on the Coaches Show, brought to you by State Farm agents Andy Womack, Dana Womack, Celeste Middleton, Alex Williams, Ron Reeves, and Emerson Williams. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.